Everybody, what's going on? This is Dr. Jeff C. May, and welcome to another episode of Doctor's Orders, advice you should actually take. And today, I've got a special guest. This is the one man that I know on a level that is capable and able of implementing change and helping people implement change in their lives far greater than I've ever known. And the results are actually mind-boggling when they show up. And so this is a builder of foundation in men. This is Coach Sam Falsafi. Welcome to Doctor's Orders, Coach Sam.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you, man?
You know, I'm doing well. It was a balmy negative 22 degrees when I drove in here this morning. But other than that, it's good.
All right, beautiful.
All right. So first and foremost, give us a little background, Coach Sam. I know you well and continue to grow and know you. But for those of you who have never known you, it's like, you know what? Why should they listen to you?
I mean, I don't know why you should listen to me. You should probably not listen to me. But if you chose to listen to me, then the background is simple. In the past 8 years, I've helped and trained specifically men, over 50,000 men and 3,000 men in under my stewardship, and close to 3,500 that came into a program that we have called Warrior Week, which is an experimental program that men choose to come to in order to make some serious shifts in their life, shifts in the way they think. And as a result of shifting the way they think, everything changes in their life in terms of results. So that has been the work that God has chosen for me to be an instrument for in the past 8 years, and I've been serving in that space. I hope that's a good introduction. I mean, I don't want to go on and talk
Oh,
about.
that's a lot of people. That's a lot of experience. You know what I mean? Like when you say, over 50,000 men in that amount of time, that's a lot of experience and insight. What would you say? And I'm gonna rattle these questions off the top of my head because I love this conversation. For those of the people coming into the new year and looking to make change, listen, it doesn't have to be freaking New Year. There's no magic between December 31st and January 1st. And so that's as we get into it. But 50,000 men, what do you think is some of the top things that are keeping people stuck and unwilling to make change in their life when they know they need to?
I think if I can simplify this, that would help everybody, because I know out there's a lot of complex terminologies, and there's a lot of complex ideas when it comes out to solving simple problems. And the simple problem with men is keeping their word. Today we are conditioned early on, not to keep our word. And some of us may be told by our dads that, hey, son, you have to keep your word. And there's certain examples that are set and we follow that, but that doesn't necessarily complete the 365-degree circle, because there are areas that we don't really have direct conversations with our dad. I mean, when we don't allow ourselves to, or give ourselves permission to explore certain conversation topics. And what happened to those? What happens for the advice that is needed for young men when it comes around those topics? And ultimately that becomes an adaptation what everybody else does, or we tend to look for some kind of information and guidance outside of the trusted circle that we may have initially, which would be our parents, if we have that. And ultimately we adopt that way of thinking, and ultimately the corruption that is taken inside of a man's character today, if you want, the virus inside of man's character is not keeping his word. I mean, we could see that in a simple example, such as, hey, Dad, can we go to the movies on Friday? And so you're like, yes, we will. And Friday comes up and you're like, you know what? I got stuck at work. I'm sorry. We go tomorrow. And the assumption and justification that comes around just saying that to a kid, your kid in that particular case, explains the patterns and behavior and the gravity of this virus, which we deny. So I would say what keeps most men stuck is not being able to keep the word, and or speaking of a plan, but allowing the plan to just remain a fantasy has been part of the game for all of us. I mean, we've all been part of this victim of this disease, if you want.
Yeah, well, and the crazy thing as I'm sitting here listening, it's like you give the example of a father and a son, and I think back to, well, the people listening probably are like adult men, right? The people listening to this or those things will be adults, and if they even, fathom how many times that happened, not just like from themselves, maybe to their own children, but how many times that happened to them as a child. So when you say this, now as we become adults, it's almost uh just it's okay, right? We've justified it. We've said, okay, well, if you don't keep your word, that's kind of almost what we expect.
Hmm.
And so many people right now, like January, I guarantee you, if I went to the gym today, it would be shoulder to shoulder, it'd be butt to nut, it'd be just insane amount of people. And then you give it, 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it is, and it's empty again. And so we say that rolling around. And um, where do you see, like, so as men come into this experience, um, and they want to hold on to that, what's one of the first things that you've seen that's able to help them? Hey, they identify the stories now, but now what do they do with it? So as you were saying that, I was like, man, I remember a time when I told my kids, I was like, hey, we're going to do this. So that time has passed. What's a good thing I can do now?
uh Training, basically. It just like, again, we go back to simplify example, and just like a kid, it's like potty training. Just because you peed once, it doesn't mean that the next day your kid is gonna go for that. There needs to be some training, right? To expect the kid to automatically continue to go to the bathroom and give up the diaper, it's a false hope. It truly is a false hope. A kid is not gonna say, "Oh wow, now I can go to the bathroom," and it just happened through an event, right? And if that event was that I went to the bathroom. Uh, the diaper is the comfort zone, and this idea of us not keeping a word as much as we want to is the comfort zone, is the place where, well, nothing happens to us when we don't keep our word, right? The consequences of not keeping a word are not as severe as they were back in the days. They're not severe. They're not severe. Back in the days, it was very severe when you would give your word. Your word was your credibility. Your word was your bank account. Your word was your family heritage. Your word was everything. Today, it can easily be changed in an instant, and there are no consequence for it. So training to keep your word over and over and over, almost in a daily matter, weekly matter, monthly matter, uh, becomes the only thing that actually uh, gets installed in a man's soul. Because once you have that fundamental base created and practice, from that point on, you can build upon it. Literally, anything that is desired to get done can be done with that foundation. Without that foundation, there's always a risk.
Right. Well, and that's just it. I think so many times the consequences when you're saying those things, like the consequences of not keeping your word, and today it's nothing. Or there may be like unseen consequences, but as we condition ourselves to that. So what would a man do as he starts beginning in training? It's very, very simple. The one thing I love about you, Coach Sam, is you don't complicate things. In fact, you have become a master at breaking down the complicated and making it just very simple, into simple steps. And so someone sitting there listening, a man sitting there listening is like, man, I really, I want to keep my word because I know it's important. And it strikes at every man's heart in terms of like, there's an honor code among men, like deep down somewhere in our DNA, we have this thing where we know keeping our word is important. And so setting up those consequences, how can a man do that? Because the world's not going to hold them accountable. We know that the world is far gone in that area. But what do you see through all the training and all the things you've brought men through? Where can they start that?
I think the idea is not to really set a consequence or create a monster in their life bigger than what it is in their head. The simplicity of the game remains into putting yourself in the basics training, and what is often challenged with basic training is the idea of boredom. We easily get bored by the basics, and there's so much distractions today, that we get drawn to all those distractions. Distraction number one in our world today is complexity. To your point, and it started way before. The church became complex, and so that because it was complex, not everybody could read the Bible, and because not everybody could read God's word, now there was a need for an interpreter that was created, and then there was a false structure around that was created, which put a man between God and you and I, right? And so that's one area where complexity fit into the status of certain people. You look at even the medicine, right? You look at all the parts of the body and all the biology and everything that our doctors today study for 7 years when they go to medicine school. Well, why do these words have to be so complicated? Like, I mean, you think about the different parts of the body, when you think about when you pass your exam and you have to memorize all, like, well, there was a reason, right? There's a reason for that complexity. Again, was to filter the majority and create a minority that can go through that. But memorizing those words doesn't necessarily provides the intelligence of the task at hand. If you and I could simply and easily, go through that, perhaps, the doctors of today are not exactly the status that they have. So as you can see, again, this is not to bash the doctors, but at the same time, is bash the system that has created the false status, which separates, the average man from somebody that is a doctor, somebody is a lawyer, somebody that is an engineer. I'm not putting down the education on the effort required, but I am pointing at the complexity of specifically vocabulary and words that separates, and it's an indirect attack on equal intelligence. So when we look at that, say, well, how do we simplify this? Well, we simplify this by challenging our patterns and behaviors. Again, the idea, we come back to it, is like, okay, now that I'm telling the truth, now that I'm straightforward, how do I continue being honest? How do I continue being straightforward to myself, to those around me? And how do I keep my word? Well, you start very simple, and you use time, and you challenge time, and you force patterns and behaviors to become compliant with what you said you're going to do. And by default, because you're doing that, you're not doing the other things. One of the simplest thing that you can do to begin this new year is to keep your word, is to do the water challenge. The water challenge is that for 21 days, you will make a declaration that you'll drink 8 glasses of water a day. Good luck. I've failed many times at that challenge. Why? Because the day goes by and go, oh man, I forgot to drink my 7th or 8th glass of water, right? It's how easy it is to drink a glass of water. It's very easy. How easy is it to do it every day and stay consistent with what you say? Well, it requires your mind to prioritize that. And if you don't, easily you'll be missing a day or two. So that's a really, really good challenge to begin. I would suggest, instead of going to the gym, wait 21 days, do the water challenge for 21 days, and then go to the gym. You'll last much longer in the gym without foundation than hitting the weights right out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. And I will tell you, one of the things I always like to say, Coach Sam, in this world is that walking and water are free. And when it comes to health, listen, I can bash on the systems all I want, because that's my world. I've lived in that, and literally hundreds and hundreds of patients over the last 14 years that come through with one. Let's just take even one thing: plantar fasciitis. I won't diverge too much. Plantar fasciitis. It literally, the name of it, the underneath tissue of your foot, the fascia is inflamed, it hurts. So you have foot pain. So somebody back in the 40s, let's just say, I think it was the 40s, said, hey, you have plantar fasciitis. And they said, okay, thank you so much, doctor, for your wise and amazing wisdom. And I give you this money and I go home and I have this thing. Now they have plantar fasciitis. They feel so happy that this magical doctor who lives in this ivory tower gave it a name. It's complete and utter just nonsense. And so people for thousands of years have had foot pain, right? But some person somewhere named it. Okay, good for you. And so we talk about those things, making it simple in terms of, guess what? If you broke down all of the systems of the body, guess what every system in your body requires? Water. Guess what pretty much every American right now has access to? Clean water. You know, there's 4.5 billion people in the world that don't even have access to a working toilet. We have walking and water. Those are free. And I think that 21-day challenge is going to be a huge challenge to the listeners today, in terms of not even just that difficult, but realizing how weak your mind has become. And doing that, not only will you have the benefit of hydration, but how much stronger your mind will be. I love that.
I would add, for those that want to level it up, maybe 21 days of 1 mile walk. You walk for a mile a day. I mean, water and to your point, water and walking are free. So here's the challenge, right? By Dr. Jeff. The challenge is the walk and water, 1 mile a day for 21 days and 8 glasses of water, whatever, maybe that's 2 liters a day. I don't know what that is exactly, but let's just go with 8 glasses of water and 1 mile walk a day for 21 days. You're gonna train the one muscle that you leave out in the gym, which is your mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, I love that. And so I think that's going to be, Coach Sam, I think we give them that challenge now. Let's not overcomplicate this. In your world, we know it's like, we keep it simple. It's the walking and water challenge. Coach Sam elegantly laid out the rules and instructions.
That's it, man. You know what? That we're done. We're done talking, because we can sit here and talk about, we can talk about you and I, we can talk about the stuff that we've done. We can talk about concepts and ideas, but why don't we put a pause on this right now and we come back to this 21 days, right? And why don't you and I actually lead? You and I will start on this as of today. And as of today, we'll commit to walking a mile and walking 21 and drinking 8 glasses of water. Like, we lead, right? We never ask anybody to do something we haven't done. It's not like we haven't done this challenge. I've walked in the past for 365 consecutive days. And I've done the water challenge, and I failed at the water challenge many times. So I found out that the walking was much easier because of the physical component, and the water is difficult because you have to set it as a priority. But hey, why don't we lead with 21 days, right? 21 days. And we ask the audience that happened to be patient enough to hear us, in particular me, to join us and let us all train our mind, our character on keeping our word for phase 1.
Absolutely. And you know what, guys? That are the doctor's orders for today. Thanks, Coach Sam.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.